Section 14, Township 109 North Range 50W, located at 21625 471st Avenue, Brookings, South Dakota 57006. Is there a motion on the county side?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall. Second by Diedrich.
And a motion on the city side.
Motion to approve by Pierce.
Second, Muesberger.
Thank you. All those in favor? Do I have to vote? No.
All right, 2021 RZ001, COD Cod Investments LLC by David Knipe has applied for rezoning of 33.48 acres of land from a joint jurisdiction R1B single family and agricultural zone to a joint jurisdiction B3 heavy business zoning. The property is located on the south side of the S-curve on 471st Avenue, south of Brookings, in the Brookings County, Brookings City joint jurisdictional area, located at 21625 471st Avenue. A historic review of the property found that 33.48 acres of the parcel was originally rezoned from agricultural to R1B, single family on April 19th, 1977, excuse me. On June 6, 1995, the west 350 feet of the parcel were rezoned from R1B, single family, to agricultural. Then on February 3rd, 1998, the west 820 feet, excluding the west 350 feet of the parcel, was rezoned from R1B, single family, to agricultural. Since that time, the west portion of the property has been zoned agricultural, and the east portion of the property has been zoned R1B, single family. The proposed rezoning of the property would change the whole parcel to a joint jurisdiction B3 heavy business, with the City of Brookings Community Development Office having the zoning control for the property. The applicant has spoken with the City of Brookings Community Development Department in regards to this rezoning request. This rezoning request will be heard by the joint meeting of the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Commission and the City of Brookings Planning and Zoning Commission that is located in the joint jurisdictional area. The decision made by the Joint Planning Commission is a recommendation to the Brookings County Commission and the Brookings City Council for a final decision on the rezoning request. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on March 23rd and 30th, 2021, and the applicant notified the abutting landowners by certified mail of the proposed rezoning request at least 14 days prior to the public hearing. And letters were sent to the Brookings County Highway Department and the Madera Township Chairman and Clerk. Here is the applicant's petition for rezoning. This is our beacon map showing the colored areas that are currently zoned. The purple area on the left-hand side is a joint jurisdictional agricultural area, and the bluish-green area on the right-hand side is joint jurisdiction R1B on the south side of the curve right here, following the radius of the curve. This is just an aerial view of the showing of the property. Just some photos I took. This is looking south around the curve there. The driveway is right down there on the other side of the pole. This is looking north from that same location. They do have trucks entering signs still there, if that would be a need for future use. This is looking west from the driveway. There's a property's getting cleaned up pretty well. There's gathered all the used concrete and piled that in a central location. And this is looking west again, north past the concrete pile. This is looking from the west, from the east side along, about halfway through around the curve there, looking towards the west of the property. This is looking northwest from the driveway, or the grass and area there. This is looking kind of back to the west again. This is looking southeast, looking from back around the base of the curve, starting at the west side, looking towards the east, towards where the pile and cleaning that area up. This is just looking south from the S-curve around there. And that's all that I have, and I do have. Ryan, do you have anything, or
City staff would just like to note that the property is located within the open wetlands land use classification in the comprehensive plan, and does have low to moderate development limitations according to the comprehensive plan's development suitability model. However, there are minimal concerns with the rezoning request. The property is not located within the floodplain. However, other factors like depth of water, soil conditions may be a concern, but not anything too concerning. For this particular request, staff would recommend approval of the rezoning request.
Would the applicant please come forward? Sit down, make sure the green light is on your mic, and please clearly state your name.
My name is David Knipe. I was one that made the application. We are, as you said, that in the early 90s and mid-90s, it was zoned R1, and I think Doc Knaus had gotten that zoning, and Andrew Ostreim would like to purchase the property and have his business there, and we look forward to having him there and cleaning up the property and doing something very good with that property. And we think that the zoning request is probably more applicable to that property than anything else. So I'll let Andrew speak if he'd like.
I don't really have a lot to say, I guess. I just,
Would you state your name, please?
I'm sorry. I'm Andrew Ostreim with Ostreim Excavating out of Brookings here. I'm basically just looking to build a shop and be able to have some equipment and stuff and run my business out of that property.
Okay. Anything else to add?
I guess that's it.
Being none, you take a seat back for a minute here, and we'll open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this that would like to speak? If you are, step forward. Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the boards? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you read the findings of the facts, please?
The original findings for this?
Oh, okay. Well,
Would you like me to call the roll?
would you please call roll?
Vanderwall,
Aye.
Gatsky,
Aye.
Troyan,
Aye.
Jensen, Dietrich, Storhog, and Erickson. Ford,
Aye.
motion passes on the county side.
And Ryan, will you please?
Aiken,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Musburger,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Bigger.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That being it,
Okay, once Mr. Chair, this time the recommendation of the Planning Commission at a future date for their consideration on the rezoning request. So,
that being it, is there a motion? Meeting on the county side.
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall,
Second.
second by Bartley.
And on the city side, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Rasmussen.
Second?
Second. Aiken.
And we're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. I'll get the one. Well, I think I know what it was. Weren't we supposed to get our hats off too? You can do that. Good evening and welcome to the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This meeting is being recorded, televised, and viewable on Swiftel Channel 19, ITC Channel 168, or the Brookings County YouTube channel. I now call this meeting to order and would like to welcome those in attendance. The Brookings County Planning Commission is a 9-member commission whose function is to recommend approval or disapproval of land use plans, zoning ordinances, subdivision plats, and amendments thereof the Brookings County Commission. The commission makes its recommendation based on the adopted comprehensive plan for the physical development of the unincorporated areas of Brookings County. As a matter of policy, all motions are made in the positive. After a motion is moved and seconded, it is open for debate. Those supporting the motion shall in turn give their reasons. Those opposing the motion shall then in turn offer their reasons. After everyone has been given a chance to be heard, the commission shall recommend approval or disapproval based on the testimony and information presented. A simple majority of a quorum of members of the Planning and Zoning Board in attendance is required to forward the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, at this time, we have a party on the line. Will you identify yourself, please?
Yep, this is Kent Miller.
Okay, when you would like to speak, let us know. Which agenda item would you like to be on?
Just listening in for a future conditional use permit that I'll be submitting. So,
Okay, thank
how
you.
it goes.
Is there a motion for approval of minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall,
Second.
second by Diedrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Items to be added to the agenda by commission members or staff?
You're just doing my director's report.
Okay.
Mr. Hill, did you have anything?
Invitation for citizens to schedule a time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Anyone wanting to speak during this time? Seeing here none. Disclosure of conflicts of interest, relationships to applicant ex parte communication?
Chad,
Yes.
there's one piece on this property that about 5 years ago I did an appraisal on, but it was not for either party involved in any of this topic, so I don't know if that's a conflict or not. Neither party is involved in it. It was done for somebody else.
I don't see that being a
Okay,
conflict.
I was just wanted to make sure I disclosed that, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
At this time, agenda item number 16, 2021 CU 004, and agenda item number 17, 2021 CU 005, application for Benyon Dawes for a mining permit and for a crushing application. They will not be heard this evening. There were some adjoining landowners that were not notified this evening of the publication, so those two conditional use applications will be heard at our May meeting. So agenda items 16 and 17 will not be on the agenda this evening. So you approve the agenda with those two items removed.
Okay. Hearing that, is there a motion for approval of agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Diedrich,
Second.
second by Vanderwall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Consideration of plats. Agenda item Agenda item 2021, plat 003. Plat of Lot 58A, First Edition of Lake Ponset Heights subdivision in Lot 2, Section 5, Township 112 North, Range 52W of the 5th primary reading, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall,
Second.
second by Gatsky.
Yes, plat 2021, plat 003. This is a replat of lot 58 of first edition of Lake Ponset Heights. Lake Ponset Heights was a subdivision that was originally platted in July 1922. Mr. Sweetland is platting out to the ordinary watermark and combining lots 58 and 63 and a portion of the street that was vacated on August 20th, 2019 by the Brookings County Commission at the request of the applicant, and the west 20 feet of lot 59 and the west 25 feet of lot 62 that he purchased from the adjoining landowner. And the lot will contain 13,894 square feet. This is the plat. So this is the adjoining, or not the adjoining, the going out to the ordinary watermark from this point. This is where the original plat line was, right here. This is the lot 63 and 56 right here. This is the west 25, or west footage of lot 59 and 62 along this east side. A little clearer picture of what the original lots were shaded in purple. This is a portion of the street that was vacated. So the new lot will be the red outlined area. Just cleans things up and makes it into one. There's a beacon map showing what the proposed footage would look like. The existing lot. And that's all that I have.
Is the applicant here?
The applicant is not here this evening.
Okay. We will now open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is against this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, would you call for a vote?
Bartley.
Aye.
Gatsky.
Aye.
Kleinjohn.
Aye.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Jensen.
Yes.
Erickson. And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 2021, plat 004. Plat of tract 1 of Hanson Edition in the northwest 1/4, except lot H and H1 and H2 of section 20, township 110 north, range 49W of the 5th primary reading, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Diedrich,
Second.
second by Kleinjohn. Richard, would you read staff report?
Yes, 2021 plat 004, Annie Hansen LLC by Jason Harms is platting off 18.84 acres from the 132.9 acres that they own. The 18 acres has road access off of 34th Avenue and abuts the city limits of Brookings. The 18 acres is not a buildable lot for residents, but could be used to build other accessory buildings in the agricultural zoned area. This is the plat. This one's going horizontal instead of vertical. Whoop. So this is the 18 acres right down here in the southwest corner of the quarter of that parcel. So this is where it would be located. This is 34th Avenue along the west side. Here's the beacon map just showing with the plat overlay on it. Here's that quarter, and this is where it would lay parcel. There's just the whole overall picture without the overlay on it. This is the old SDSU property that was, that they had purchased recently a few years ago, so. On the west side of the US Highway 14 bypass. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
No, the applicant is not here.
Applicant
this
is not
evening.
here. Okay. Then I will now open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is against this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you?
Excuse me,
Aye.
Gatsky,
Aye.
Dietrich,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Vanderwall,
Aye.
Troyen,
Aye.
Jensen,
Yes.
Erickson, Bartley, Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 2021, plat 005, plat of lots 2A, 3A, and 5A, Block 2, Sunset Point addition of Section 22, Township 112 North, Range 47W of the 5th Prime Meridian, Brookings County, South Dakota. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Motion by Bartley,
Second.
second by Kleinjohn. Read the staff report, please.
2021 plat 005. It's a plat of lot 2A, 3A, and 5A in Block 2 of Sunset Point Addition. Sunset Point Addition is located at Lake Hendricks and it was originally platted and approved by the Zoning Commission on November 1st, 2005 into lake lots meeting the 20,000 square foot requirement. On October 2nd, 2012, all the lots that were platted in 2005 that were not sold were replatted into larger lots for tax purposes. And they have sold the lot and they replat the lot as it is sold back into the individual lake lot like it was originally platted. This is the three lots. 2A, 3A, and 5A are the lots that are being replatted this evening. The same way they were platted originally. A little easier, here's the beacon map with the plat, proposed plat overlay on it, 2A, 3A, and 5A. Just the same one without the lots, we just drew them in there. And this is the original plat back in 2005. 2, 3, and 5 right here. Those are the only lots that are, after these lots are replatted back into, all the lots are platted back in there like it was originally. And they do meet the 20,000 square foot requirement, and I do not believe the owner is here this evening, but that's all that I have.
Okay, so if the owner is not here to step forward, we'll just jump ahead to the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you call the vote?
Dietrich,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Vanderwall,
Aye.
Troyen,
Aye.
Jensen,
Yes.
Erickson, Bartley, Gatsky,
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 14. Zoning ordinance changes. Sit down and state your full name, please.
Good evening, I'm Ryan Krogman, Brookings County Commissioner and real estate broker and for Century 21 Krogman and Company. Appreciate your time today, I won't take too much of it. What I'm here today is asking for your consideration to look into the possibility of a rural residential Planning Development District. Something of an ordinance change or an addition that would allow building out into the county for residential lots under certain conditions.
Ryan, can I have you just slide the mic a little closer to you,
Can you
please?
hear me? Okay. And, and so what I was here looking for is obviously the history has been in the 1980s since you could build out in the county, any type of development similar to Sunnyview north of town or North Grove north of town, which has a development that has large 2 to 3 acre lots. They have their own covenants, restrictions, they have their own road maintenance, and they handle pretty much everything within themselves there. They're located on a county road, and they have done well for many years. Right now, we currently have no option to do anything like that. And so I'm here asking for your consideration to maybe put together a task force to discuss options of putting something to this together to try to see if there's a way that we can look at making options for somebody to develop a amount of acres, maybe 10 acres minimum, that they could put together 2 to 3 acre lots, sell those lots, and but with certain restrictions. Things have changed in the last 40 years. There's the right to the right to farm covenant now. Eggland is not based on comps now; it's based on the soil types for taxation, and so there's a tremendous amount of want to have an acreage. We have people that come into town to take jobs, and they're looking for acreages, and they just can't find them. And then is there a lot that I can buy 2 or 3 acres that's out in the county? And what do I have to do that? And with the 35 acre rule, it's very difficult to find any place to build out in the county, outside of city limits or outside the joint jurisdiction area. So I have some ideas. I've talked with Bob Hill on this, ideas of putting together a planned development district which will outline the rules that you must have to be able to come to this zoning board to ask to be able to put lots together. For example, must be on a county road, must have access to rural water, must be within 10 miles of a city. I have no intention of getting rid of the 35 acre rule that we have in here, just an opportunity to add something to our ordinance that would give somebody an opportunity to develop lots if they would want to. Right now we have that, we don't have any opportunity whatsoever to do that. This would give somebody an opportunity to come to you in a planned development if they meet a certain criteria to make that happen. And so what I'm asking is for us to, like I said, I would certainly be involved to put together some type of a group, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 of the zoning board members, and we could outline certain criteria to put something this together. So I'd open up for any questions or anything like that. Like I said, we could certainly identify areas that would meet that criteria on the maps, similar to what they've done in the state with CAFOs, that this is the area, that this could go on, and then the criteria of what they must have to be able to carry out the land development district.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Riley?
if I might, I think what Ryan is asking for is, please understand, it's outside the joint jurisdictional area. That planning is underway, and it'll probably be approved if we ever get past COVID and get into that discussion on the joint jurisdiction ordinance, and that involves some housing and some changes. So this is a request strictly to the county in its zoning ordinances. So it's just, don't be confused with joint jurisdiction. This is not.
Yeah.
This is
outside.
outside of that.
This is
outside
outside of that.
The request is
Again, we would identify areas outside the joint jurisdiction that would fit the criteria.
This would be like rural, Elkton, Aurora, White.
Again, it's up to you. What kind of requirements we put that on, but yeah, I would say within close proximity to communities, because that's who's looking to purchase it. So for example, within 5 miles of the joint jurisdiction area, or that kind of thing, or within 5 miles of another community, that we could identify areas that would be open to this, this type of thing too. You know, yeah, you know, I don't want to tackle the joint jurisdiction on that part of it. It sounds like that's something the city will handle, and that's their decision. When it's in the joint jurisdiction, any residential turns to them. This would be outside in the county areas that we would look at.
This is kind of opposed to what our handbook says our purpose is in the county,
Yeah, no, I know.
just so everybody understands that.
There's just the reason I'm asking is there's such a strong want and need, I shouldn't say need, a want to be out there and to be able to have an option at that.
I understand that.
And we have people that come for jobs. Just an example, we had somebody that accepted a job at a manufacturing company in town coming from Nashville, looking to find an acreage. And I spoke with them for a week and we couldn't find anything, and had accepted the job and then turned around and rejected the job because they couldn't find a place outside of the community. And so that happens on a regular basis. And they're coming from places that have these options. They have these options in other counties too. We just don't really have that option in Brookings County.
So are you saying that like another North Grove or Sunnyview, not just 2-acre lots spread across the?
Correct, yeah. I don't want a 2-acre spot just all over the place willy-nilly. I'm looking for, my vision is, I guess, of it would be a North Grove or Sunnyview. That maybe we make the rule that it has to be a minimum of 10 acres that could be developed into this, or a minimum of 15 acres that could be developed into it. But Sunnyview, has been around since the 1950s. They have a road coming in and out. They take care of it. They have 2 or 3 acre lots all the way around. And where this is coming up is there was a house that was for sale out there, and there was 22 showings in a day of people that some weren't even really active looking until that came up, because that's what they wanted to do. And that's what they wanted to try to get. And it didn't have to be in the county, but it's a lot that size. It's not feasible to do that in town. It's just too expensive to develop like that, and lots become very expensive in town because the costs and the infrastructure, where if you could put a rural development of a paved road, you have one access off to it, and then that development of 15 acres and 10 lots, acre lots, or 20 acres and 10 2-acre lots, and they have their own road, they have rural water, they have their own septic systems, and then they have their own covenants and restrictions. They can build outbuildings. They can decide if they want to have animals, if they want to have horses, if they want to have, 2 horses and have that type of covenant restriction. Similar west of town, off of 20th Street, I think, 20th Street back there, Nelson's Addition, where, wouldn't be 20th Street, 12th Street South, I think. Nelson's Addition, they have, development comes in off the paved road there, and they have 4 or 5 acre lots, and they could have horses there fenced in, and none of those become open for sale because everybody stays, because that's what they're looking for. And so people that are looking for that, there just really isn't an option for that. And I know there's going to be a concern about having city people out in the country, and I understand that concern and different thing too. The right to farm covenant, they all would have to sign that. Could have it, everything in their covenants restrictions as part of that. I'm sure they might complain still, about stuff, but I think if they're wanting it that bad, they probably understand why they're out there.
Ryan, with a planned development district, is it responsibility of the county to enforce the rules and regulations of the PDD? Is that how that works? So the county, if it says covenants, they have to enforce the covenants. If it says they don't complain about the livestock animals next door, the county has to enforce. So they can't complain, they can't file negative comments about the farmers.
I know they got your covenants restrictions that have to be enforced by the development themselves.
Right.
if they had a planned development district, you could put rules and regulations in that would
Right,
be
that's
then
what I mean.
enforced by
'Cause-
that. And that's why I asked for a PDD rather than just saying, hey, just open it for development. That way the rules and regulations would be enforceable by the county.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, yeah, the county does not enforce covenants. If a planned unit development's done, then whoever controls the development has to control. If there's a complaint on garbage not being picked up, it goes in-house. Obviously, if it's a crime, like someone spraying chemicals and it kills your rose bushes or something, then that's considered a crime, and then obviously the county would get involved. But just the typical covenants, like you have to have 3 pine trees in front of your house, the county doesn't get involved in enforcing covenants.
I think a couple of things the city looks at when it looks at these types of developments is having them be in the way of future development or growth of the community. So I think what Ryan's asking for is things that would be outside of the future growth possibilities of the city of Brookings. So obviously 5 miles, 10 miles out is outside our growth pattern, at least to the south anyway it is. Going to the north, I don't know how far we can go up that way. Our future land use map for joint jurisdiction goes out about 3 miles, I believe, right now. It can go as many as 5. So you're looking at developments be more like, not necessarily Sunnyview, which would be our first encroachment, and we'd have to jump over that. That doesn't have city services, police, fire protection, and so forth. It's just county has its own septic systems. I think that one has a group septic system that everybody pays into and maintains. I'm not sure of that. We have a development south of town that's built that way, and they've had issues with their septic system. It's a joint system. So those are the types of things this task force would have to work out, is how you're going to require those things so that they don't become problems in the future for development of the community, the county, and all the cities. If we plan an ordinance, it's not going to involve just getting outside of Brookings. It's outside of Volga, outside of Aurora, outside of all these other communities who probably don't have access to the sewer and water issues that the community of Brookings does. And of course, it's limited as it goes north. We know that, and I'm getting way off base here, but I think the idea of a task force to look at it is probably appropriate because we keep getting asked and we keep pushing it down the road. But from the county side, we have to look to protect ag land. And the original 35-acre rule was to not have that conflict of the community growing out into the county with farming, which is a heavy industry. So, but we've had developments like North Grove that's done well, and people enjoy living out there. Now it's a little bit farther out. So I don't know where you put that mile limit. You take it out of the joint jurisdiction area, which we would, but then how far, in what directions, and from smaller communities, how do we look at it? So those are questions that could be answered by a task force, or at least examined. No guarantee that anything will happen or change, but it's a pretty heavy move to move off where we've been. It is. So
And I guess that's what I'm asking for is a group to put together, if anybody's willing to do that, and we can maybe put together parameters of what would be allowable and what we would look for. We can use the mapping, we can use the GIS, we can use the floodplains, we can use all of that aquifers and look at ideas and areas. We can look at where CAFOs are at right now, and being within a half mile of a CAFO is probably not a good mix for a residential, rural area. So you kind of get an idea of where this would be available. And then the restrictions that it would take to put something like this together, the acreage, the size of the acreage, and what they need to have to be able to make it successful. The last thing I want to do is try one of these things and then it turns around and blows up. The other thing we could do is invite First District to come, because I know they've worked on this up in Watertown and Cottington County, and they've been part of that also. And if there's been some issues or some problems, they could advise us and give us some advice on things that have worked and things that haven't worked. If we came back with some type of a recommendation or a proposal that then this board could discuss and have public input and see if it was something that was worthwhile.
I guess my suggestion at this point is that wasn't your idea, you come back with a formal recommendation on the board, its mission, basically what you want to do, it's what you've stated, but be concise about its parameters, what's the membership, what's the time frame, and give us something to say, okay, here's it's written down. Let's take a look at it and approve it and move forward with the forming of a committee or a task force. I don't think we're ready to jump into that tonight.
Well, I would
Start
like
the
to see if there's a
conversation.
commitment though from here to even look at it. I've done some work, but it's like, I don't want to keep going on and say, here's this whole proposal. If it's like, no, we're not interested in doing this. There's not an appetite for this. We just don't want it. This type of ordinance in our county, that's fine. If there's willing to look at it, willing to help, participate in it, then, I'd certainly do the heavy lifting, not, and the other, zoning board members would be willing to help bring in ideas or concerns or what ifs or different things and unintended consequences that might happen that I'm not thinking of. And so,
Well, I tend to agree with Mr. Bartley that I think we'd all be willing to listen to something, but we understand what you're saying with there being a need. But what you've proposed tonight so far is too vague for us to have direction with the task force yet. So if you would like to put together a little bit farther and see if you can give us more direction to put together a task force to look into this in the coming months, might be a deal there, get plot size, acre size, that stuff down, what you're thinking, how it compares to North Grove and everything else out in the county, and see if something can be approached.
I would agree.
This is an analogy here is to our county commission drainage board that we had a report today that we put together almost a year ago and finally got the report back today. And there was no magic pill at the end of it. It was basically, we looked at it, we should have looked at it. It's been a while. We had some recommendations, about 10 of them out of there, but there was no magic pill to solve any of the problems at that particular time. But at least we took the time and we looked at it and we got a report. So this is somewhat similar to that, in my opinion, that we need to take the time to listen because it is a citizen's request. I know you're Commissioner Krogman. It's a citizen's request on behalf of probably all the realtors in town and all the people who want to purchase those types of properties. Well, at least the county took a look at it, and maybe we'll come up with a recommendation to make some changes, and maybe not. But I'm not afraid to take a look at it. I think we should.
okay,
Drainage.
I will
Nothing changed.
come back with that and we'll kind of go from there. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We will now convene as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment is a 9-member board which has the power to hear requests for variances, conditional uses, and appeals from non-ministerial decisions of the zoning officer. The concurring vote of 2/3 of the full board membership of the board, 6 votes is necessary for approval of a variance or an appeal of the zoning officer. The concurring vote of a simple majority of those board members present and voting is necessary for approval of a conditional use permit. In accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, we require a motion to approve a request before the request can be debated. As a matter of policy, all motions are made in the positive. The board, under specific powers granted to it by the state, shall authorize variances from the zoning requirements where special conditions existing on the land will result in unnecessary hardship for the applicant. Financial disadvantage to the property owner shall not constitute proof of unnecessary hardship. Agenda item 2021, conditional use 006. Stephen Sheila Fritz have made an application 2021 CU 006 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a conditional use Article 4 District Requirements, Chapter 4.03 LP Lake Park District, Section 4.03.02, conditional uses permit number 6, accessory building with a sidewall greater than 14 feet or more than 2,000 square feet, and use an accessory building greater than 120 square feet. The property is described as the south 245.36 feet in Block 2 of the Pearson Overby Addition in Government Lot 4 of Section 22, Township 112 North, Range 47W, Lake Hendricks Township. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Diedrich,
Second.
second by Vanderwall.
Would you read the staff report, please?
Yes, 2021 CU 006. Steve and Sheila Fritz have applied for Lake Park conditional use to build an accessory building 40 feet wide and 64 feet long with a 14-foot sidewall, which is 2,560 square feet, to be used for storage of their boat, pontoon, ice castle, and mower. The proposed accessory building will be located on a non-lakefront lot that will meet the setback requirements of 25 feet from the road, 25 feet from the rear property line, and 8 feet from the side property lines. And access would be off East Lake Hendricks Drive. The lot is located on the southeast side of Lake Hendricks, on the east side of East Lake Hendricks Drive in the Pearson Overby Addition, which is approximately a half-mile north of their lake residence located at 219 Oak Hill Place, Hendricks, Minnesota. The lot is 149.25 feet wide and 245.36 feet long, and it has 36,471 square feet. And that Pearson Overby Addition was platted on April 21st, 2016. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on March 23rd and 30th, 21, and the White Tri-City Star on March 25th and April 1st. And this would be 560 square feet over our permitted size for accessory buildings, which is 2,000 square feet in the Lake Park District for accessory buildings, with a 14-foot sidewall. Letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, Lake Hendricks Township Chairman and Clerk, and the Brookings County Highway Department. And our office has received no comment from any adjoining landowners or any other party. Here's his conditional use request. Here is a site map. Going to be 60 feet from the road, from East Lake Hendricks Drive, 50 to 60 feet away from the township road. Plenty of space around there, size-wise. Just a proposed floor plan of the building, size of the building, little apron over here over the door. Proposed what it looks like elevation with the structure on there, kind of hard to see, but picture the roof. This is the overhang right here walking into the door. This is the lot. This is right in here. This is the township road that goes into Oak Hill Place right here. Also goes down to Lake Hendricks, Lakeshore access. This is 487th Avenue, which is also East Lake Hendricks Drive. There's some pictures over there. This is looking from the north property line. This is the property line right here by the trees, looking west there towards the lot. This is looking southeast from that same location towards the big open area there. This is looking at the southeast property line at the corner of East Lake Hendricks Drive and Oak Hill Place there, looking towards the west. This is looking from the west side of the property, looking back towards the northeast on their proposed location of the shed out in this area. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you step forward? State your full name when you sit down, please.
Steve Fritz.
Do you have anything to add, Richard?
I'm just asking for that permit just so I have to have a 14-foot sidewall to get my ice shack and camper and stuff in there in the pontoon. So that's why we're asking for the extra room on the height on the building, and then deeper The store, I've got a pontoon, the ice castle, boat, snowmobile trailer. We had bought a lake home up there, and I just want to try to get that stuff up there and get the shed up there, so if we move up permanently in the future here, I would have a place to put all that stuff.
Good.
And I plan on screening the north side with trees and stuff around it, and then the entrance, we would stay off the main road and just come in on the south side. That's about it.
Alrighty. Thank you. I will now open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you read the findings of the facts?
Yes, I will read the findings of facts in its entirety for this one. And for the other conditional use this evening, I will just highlight, well, we'll not read the whole document. Let's go through and read the highlighted areas. So this first document, you'll have to bear with me. We'll have to read the whole thing. Brookings County 21 CU 006, an application for a conditional use permit having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as a board of adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application will be being made by Steve and Sheila Fritz regarding the following real property. The south 245.36 feet in block 2. I'll have to get the rest of the footage in there. In the government lot 4 of section 22, township 112 north, range 47 west, Lake Hendricks Township. After due notice, a public hearing having been held on the application on the 6th day of April 2021. Number 1, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment hereby finding that it is empowered to grant such a conditional use under the following sections of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. Article 4, District Requirements, Chapter 4.03, LP, Lake Park District, Section 4.0302, Conditional Use Permit Number 6. And further finding that the granting of the conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest. Number 2, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finds and certifies that the following specific rules governing the conditional use request have been complied with. None stated. Number 3, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finds that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the following are applicable. A, entrance and exits to the property and proposed structure therein with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety, convenience, traffic flow, control, and access in case of fire or catastrophe. Main entrance would be off 487th Avenue, otherwise known as East Lake Hendricks Drive. B, off-street parking and loading areas were required with particular attention to items in A above and economic noise, glare, or other effects of the conditional use on adjoining properties or properties generally in the district. No on-street parking allowed. C, utilities and refuse and service areas with reference to locations, availability, and compatibility. Do you have a dumpster service required for garbage disposal? Is that something that you do now, or would you have a dumpster there for your garbage, or would you? Okay. You would take it back to your own property then? Okay, yep. D, screening and buffering in reference to type, dimensions, and character. None stated. E, signs for any and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony of the properties in the district, none stated. Required yards and other open spaces, none stated. G, general compatibility of adjacent properties and other properties in the district. Comprehensive plan met for the Lake Park District. H, roads providing access to the property are adequate to meet the transportation demands of the proposed conditional use. The Board of Adjustment may require the applicant to enter in a written contract with any affected township or other governmental unit regarding the upgrading and continued maintenance of any roads for the conditional use requested prior to the issuance of a conditional use. None stated. I, any required notifications to law enforcement or fire department. None stated. J, any safety inspections required? None stated. 4, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this conditional use upon following additional special conditions or safeguards. No sleeping quarters to be constructed in the building. The Board of Adjustment, by at least a majority vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner conditional use for the above described real property as follows. Build a 40-foot wide by 64-foot long accessory building with a 14-foot sidewall on a non-lakefront lot for personal storage. This conditional use permit is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the requirements and conditions in 3 and 4 above, and upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If this is approved, the Brookings County zoning director is authorized to issue any required building permits for the construction consistent with the requirements of this conditional use permit. This conditional use permit is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Dated the 6th day of April, 2021.
If that's all good, Richard, would you call roll?
Yes, Klein John.
Aye.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Jensen.
Yes.
Erickson. Bartley.
Aye.
Gadsky.
Aye.
Dietrich.
Aye.
And Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 2021 CU 007. Marty Searstead Sullivan has made an application 2021 CU 007 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a conditional use Brookings Joint Jurisdiction Area Article 4 Agricultural, Residential and Floodplain and Aquifer Districts, Section 405A, Agricultural District, Section 408, Special Exception Number 18, Extended Home Occupations in Brookings County Zoning Ordinance, Article 11, Section 11.01A, Agricultural District, Conditional Use Permit Number 20, Home Extended Business. This property is described as the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 lying south of the outside line A of said southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 extended east except the east 245 feet of the north 72 feet of the south 344 feet of the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4, all in Section 12, Township 109 North, Range 50W, including a 66-foot wide access easement across the west 550 feet of the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4, the center line of said easement being 210 feet south of outside line A in the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of said Section 12, Township 109 North, Range 50W, Madera Township, located at 3631 Madera Avenue South, Brookings, South Dakota 57006. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall. Second?
Second.
Dietrich. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2021 CU 007. Marty Surstead Sullivan has applied for conditional use for an extended home business for a dog kennel to board dogs. The property consists of 21 acres with a house, pole shed, detached garage, a fenced yard, and a manufactured home where her parents live. Manufactured home as a secondary residence. Conditional use 2005 CU 010 was approved for a manufactured home as a secondary residence for a family member on July 5th, 2005. She is located within the joint jurisdictional area at 3631 Madeira Avenue, approximately 1.5 miles south of 32nd Street South, in Madeira Township Road. Their business plans and is attached, and she plans to board dogs during the week, Monday through Friday, with a maximum of 40 dogs at any one time. When the application was submitted, her plans were to build a new building south of her house for the kennel. She's now planning on using the existing shop building, which has a concrete floor for the kennel. Turf or rubber floor will be added to that building, along with a fenced yard with lockable gates for the exercise area. The drop-off point will be in their yard at the kennel building, and dog waste will be towed out on the grassland. The City of Brookings Community Development Department was advised of this conditional use and has no objections to the conditional use request. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on March 23rd and 30th, 2021, and letters were sent to the adjoining landowner, the Madeira Township Chairman and Clerk. Here's her conditional use application. Their business plan. Here's the beacon map of the property, the driveway going out here to Madeira Avenue south, come up the driveway. This is a proposed building she's looking at having her kennel in. This is the house that she lives in. Her new proposed structure was going to be in this area right here. Like I say, she has now decided to use the existing building over here for her dog kennel. This is a detached garage. This is another garage. This is the home where her mother and father live on the property. Some pictures looking down the driveway from Madeira Avenue south there. This is looking south along Madeira Avenue from her driveway. Clear vision is open. This is looking north from Madeira Avenue. This is just looking up in the yard at the circle drive there at the Y. This is her house looking towards the east. This is another small shed that she has over there. Her mother and father live over here in the manufactured home with their garage. This is just looking towards the northeast here from that same location. This is her house. This is a parking area adjoining landowners, buildings and fence right there. This is her building on the north side of the driveway that she would use for her proposed dog kennel parking area. This is just looking west from that building right there out towards the open grassland area. And this is to the south, looking south from that building across the driveway to the open grassland and pasture area right there where could be used to dispose of and spread out the dog waste. And that's all that I have at this time.
Would you step forward, state your name clearly?
My name is Marty Searstead Sullivan.
Do you have any additions to Richard's stuff?
What I have, and I brought copies, I thought that if you had like an objection, that was what was to be submitted beforehand to be posted. So I did have 14 copies printed out today. What I do have is a letter of recommendation from Dr. Jill Ayers. She's a veterinarian here in Brookings. And then I just have some supporting documents based on the concern that was posted online in accordance to this. I guess aside from answering any of your questions, I just wanted to be able to explain my whys of what it is that I'm wanting to do. This has been a family-owned property. I believe my parents bought this property in, I'm going to say 1991. I think I was in 7th grade. It's been a a home and source for a family-served business operation. My dad operated his construction company, Faber Construction, off of this property, and we lived in this home. In 2005, when I purchased the land from my parents, that is when we put the manufactured home out there for my parents to live, and my dad continued to operate his business. The agreement that we had was that he would operate his business out of that Morton building or that machine shop until he retired, which he has now done so. So that shop technically now has become available to me for my use. When I had originally submitted my application, I had not got a confirmation on the funds that I was looking to borrow. So we were looking at what would be feasible for us to do with immediate funds out of pocket. But since then, we have been given the go-ahead by our supporters and by the bank for financing, and therefore allowing us to do the original plan that we had wanted to do in the location there in that north building. So as far as what we're looking to do, you know, I would like to be able to continue on the legacy of being able to have a family-operated business on our property. I am a business owner. I own a business in Brookings City of Brookings at the University Mall. It is a physical detriment to my body. It's a day spa that I provide services all day, and I've been a therapist for 20-some years, and so the wear and tear on my body is kind of coming to its source, and so I'm looking for other ways to generate revenue to continue on my ability to maintain my financial independence. With COVID hitting last year, it definitely impacted my existing business. But however, with the impact of COVID-19, it is definitely something that has set up for the success of this particular business venture. So what I'm looking to do is I'm going to call it a doggy daycare, which would be just like you would describe having a daycare facility for small children. This would be a daycare facility for dogs. It'd be a place to go for while their owners are at work or in class, at school, whatever they're doing, or traveling out of town. As if you went through the business plan that I had submitted, you know, it goes through all the accommodations as far as, you know, what a daycare service provides. You know, we're going to take professional, exemplary care of your animal while they're in our care. You know, we're looking at the face of the shop that Richard had showed with the two, you know, large machine garage doors. Those would be removed. An actual retail front with glass windows and an awning would be installed. So it would be like a professional retail type front, an actual business. It would have an advanced HVAC system, obviously with having pets and pet dander and stuff like that. You know, the HVAC system would be there to be forcing clean and fresh air through there. The main thing I think is, again, the aspect of using that building is to build a building of that size. Right now, the estimated proposal that I got from Morton Building was about $121,000, and that was just to put the concrete and the building up itself, not doing any of the interior, not doing any of the fencing structures or the playground turf type areas. We are looking at professional installed dog turf to be installed on a concrete slab. Therefore, this creates better opportunities for safety and sanitation. This can be pressure washed. It can be cleaned with sanitizer and disinfectant to eliminate any bacteria and to keep any odors down. I know that in my description it talked about like there being decorative fences and stuff like that. As far as the kenneling goes, when I put that in there, I wanted to make sure to bring attention to the fact that we're not just talking like your standard typical chain link fence. When I say a decorative fence, I'm talking like the heavy vinyl type privacy fencing, as well as the black decorative wrought iron type fencing and any other we'll call it chain link or mesh type fencing that would be required. I have been working with a professional fencing company, being able to discuss with them fences that are, you know, 6 feet tall, to make sure that animals aren't jumping over them, making sure that there would be, it's called an anti-dig system installed with them. So what it is like a mesh lining, I think, that comes out, we'll say 2 or 3 feet from the base of the fence line as well, so that, if a dog was to try to dig. But that would be, again, in those grassy areas. Some of the areas that we're looking at right now, again, like I said, concrete pad with turf, so obviously they're not going to be digging through a concrete pad. As far as concerns with being on the north side to the adjoining landowner, we are looking at an 8-foot solid privacy fence, not at the fence line, but staying relatively close to the existing north side of the shop that is there. We are looking at, for better example, I'm just going to say like a 2-foot concrete curb across the back with then a 6-foot solid vinyl privacy fence across, so you'd have 8 total feet. And across that back area, there's just like a shelter belt of evergreen trees that's and the green grassland between the back of the building and my north fence there. I know that let's see, and I don't know, do you guys want me to hand these? I just put them together. Can I give it to you?
You can bring them up
Yep.
to here and we'll put them on the file.
The first document there in the pile is the referral and recommendation letter from Dr. Jill Ayers, the veterinarian. I've worked with her for 23 years, and she has been consulting and mentoring me through this on the safest ways to provide this type of a service, as well as what types of vaccinations we should require and make mandatory before an animal would be allowed on the property, what type of behavioral issues to look for. Her recommendation to have a veterinarian assistant on staff to be able to identify any injuries or illness, should there be any, promptly to be able to seek care in the event that an animal was not feeling well while they were in our care. The second document that I have provided is a judge's decision from a court case that was brought against me at the complaint of my neighbor directly to the north this past summer. While my husband and I were in the shop yard hooking up a skid steer trailer to go and purchase a lawnmower, our dog, we had one dog that was out that was barking for about 5 to 10 minutes, not consistently, but over that span of 5 to 10 minutes, the dog was barking at us because he had reached his perimeter of the electric underground fence that we have, and he couldn't come down where we were. So I did go to court. I did plead not guilty. I represented myself and cross-examined the deputy sheriff that came out to the property, as well as my neighbor to the north, and as you'll see on that document, that the charges, it was a notice of acquittal, and they were all dismissed, and I was found not guilty. And then the third document that I provided you is a written copy of an email conversation between a existing client of my neighbor to the north. He owns a veterinarian company in town, and one of his clients is actually an employee of mine, and so she contacted his facility asking about the opinion or the thoughts of taking her dog to a doggy daycare once she begins school this May. And as you can read there was support from his clinic by one of his representatives that, that there was value in doggy daycare, and if she could afford and make arrangements to do so, that would be good. I'm presenting that information to you simply because I've read his objection to it, and I just wanted to make sure that the information was there to show you. I guess I know that, I can answer any questions that you have. I can ramble on and tell you all about what I'd like to be able to do with it. I guess the other reason on the why, like I said, is this property has been in my family since the early 90s. I purchased it from them with the hopes and dreams of staying there, and continuing, my livelihood there. My parents are both still alive, and they are living on the property with us. My mother is 76, my dad is 75. My mom, Judy Faber, had a massive stroke last June, actually, and since then has been wheelchair bound, which has been unfortunate, and we've definitely had to transition. One of the other things for us is we've been doing at-home health care for her and being around, but now that Medicare has run out, her physical therapy is not as frequent as we would like it to be. So my having the ability to be at home and have a business that can subsidize my income and be at home will allow me to be able to spend more time with her, ultimately assisting in her recovery, as well as assisting in my financial stability and growing my piece of my dream.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of the board? Well, I'll excuse you at this time here, and we'll go to the public portion of this deal.
Absolutely.
I'll now open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is against this?
Mr. Chair, yes, there was comments received that were posted online and you were all aware of, that were sent to you in your packet. I won't read these aloud, but had all seen these. Dated March 31st, email from Ryan and J.C. Fiedler, 3605 Madera Avenue South. His concerns as you've had time to read there. I'll leave it up for a little bit here for you to read. And those are the only comments that the zoning development office had received.
Their opponents? Step forward, say your name. You're limited to 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jackie Fedler. This is my husband, Ryan.
Ryan Fedler.
So I won't go through everything that is up there because you can read that. But the main reason that we oppose this is the very close proximity to our house. If you look at that picture, actually right there, the proposed building to be used is actually closer to our house than it is to the applicant's house. And we actually measured from our house to our property line today, and in the wind is approximately 150 feet, right? And just estimating by visual, I would say that their building is about 25 feet from the property line. So, I mean, it's less than 200 feet from our house. As far as our life, we have livestock on our property, we have 2 young children, we spend the vast majority of our time on our property outside. And having 40 dogs in a facility, even with a privacy fence, is going to greatly decrease our quality of life outside. Because if you've ever been in a dog boarding facility, the dogs are barking constantly. And it's not because they're being mean, it's not because they're seeing people, it's because they're around 40 other dogs, and they're extremely excited, and they're barking. We have been to one of the other large boarding facilities in town, and the noise that you can hear in this approximate distance is very great. and that facility put a lot of insulation in their building with an R value of 46, which is much larger than most houses, and you can still hear it to that extent. So this would greatly decrease our quality of life.
And their closest neighbors are a half a mile away, and their neighbors even say they can distinctly hear the dogs. So us being only 50 yards-ish roughly away is going to be right in there. It doesn't really matter if you have an 8-foot privacy fence. It's not going to be enough to dissipate that sound.
And then just as a one statement, us raising sheep on our property, having that much dog noise could potentially affect the productivity of our sheep. We can say that especially since, as our neighbor stated, we are veterinarians. And having said that as well, we know that there is very few, if any, fences that can keep every single dog in or out. So we have spoken to contractors that build fences for boarding facilities, and they say even an 8-foot fence can't keep every dog in. They would recommend having a roof over top of it. And I have seen that personally, that dogs climb any number of foot fence. So keeping the dogs off of our property would be a concern. We also have concerns right now with their 7 dogs being on our property. The day that we received this letter of notice of this meeting, one of their dogs was on our property over the noon hour. So we have very much concerns about keeping the dogs off of our property. Anything else right off?
And we do have other police reports of aggression and that kind of stuff. I mean, there's 4 in total police reports, and that's just the ones that we've decided to report. That being said, I don't report every one of them because I don't want to bug the sheriff's department all that often. So there are multiple times, and we have multiple pictures of them on our property, so I just have very little. I guess I want to know what assurances we have that dogs won't be constantly on our property. Because especially strange dogs, when mixed with sheep, doesn't result well in the sheep when that
You
happens.
have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. So, but the biggest concern is the noise and the severe close proximity to our house, not just our property line, but our house. And little kids, I mean, we basically aren't going to sleep because not only are the dogs going to bark all the time, if they are keeping them overnight, they're going to bark at all hours of the day as well. So,
Because the application does say boarding also, not just doggy daycare during business hours.
so yeah, the close proximity and the noise is our main chief concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience or on the phone that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing and move to the board for any additional comments and questions.
You had mentioned, and I'll ask you to come back up if you would. You had mentioned taking care of with the grass on the doggy turf, I guess you called it.
Yes.
What's your plan for handling any dog waste or any other waste? Is it going to be hauled off-site, or are you going to pile it on-site? What are you going to do with the dog waste?
Like we had discussed, if like we have a dumpster service, so we can dispose of it through our personal dumpster service. Or when I had submitted the application, I had discussed with Richard, if it was acceptable, perhaps using it as like a fertilizer and putting it out like in our hay field. Just was looking at the options. So whatever is the acceptable option, we had also looked at, depending upon like what the volume ultimately became, the way that the concrete would be poured, there would be like a drainage system as well for like rainwater, snow melting, and pressure washing runoff. But we could also look at having like installing a septic tank that would be specifically for that area. Yep. In rebuttal on any of the.
The public portion of the hearing is closed.
Okay.
What type of fence are you planning on putting around your property?
I'm working with Ryan White, RW Construction or Contracting, that does the fencing. And then I'm also working with a company called Snyder Manufacturing. They are specifically dog kenneling systems. So the type of fence, like I said, when I say decorative, I just mean visually appealing. But obviously maintaining the safety that is needed to keep the dogs in. In the event that you had a dog that I guess is a 8-foot fence jumper, then that dog would not be able to be within the facility because it wouldn't be meeting the guidelines. On the back of our business plan, we had dog rules. And so these were some of the dog rules to address everybody's concerns. So, like I said, to the north, privacy for our neighbor's privacy. But then making it more visually appealing to the west and to the south, because as you're traveling down Madera Avenue, coming or going from the business, that's going to be the aspect of the business facility that you're going to see. You're not going to see the north side or the east side.
Is the fence like a chain link fence or woven wire fence or a chicken fence? I mean,
No, it would
like
be
a
like
vinyl plank fence?
vinyl plank on the back, which would be the privacy fence.
Yep.
And then on the sides, it would be like the black wrought iron type of fence that's about 2.5, 3 inches wide on the slats with a solid bar across the top, not anything that's pokey or would, hurt anybody if they jumped up there.
Thank you.
In your business plan, you just talked about dogs that wouldn't fit because it could jump over an 8-foot fence. I think mine could. But how about aggressiveness and aggressive dogs that obviously aren't controllable or cause issues?
Yep, so in the dog rules here, I mean, obviously a dog is going to bark, and when they're playing, they're going to bark. But as far as consistent, constant, obsessive, interfering type dog barking, we're not going to allow that. So if a dog is, because I don't want to listen to that any more than anyone else does, but a dog is going to bark. I cannot say to you, we'll only have dogs that don't bark when they're outside playing. So if it's an animal that can't be, I'll say, maintained or controlled or calmed down and playing within the rules, then that dog would be first immediately taken inside. We're looking at like sound dampening, different ways to insulate the interior of the building. But that dog would be made sure to be brought in and separated and to kept quiet or calmed down while I called you, the owner, then and said, you need to come and get your dog because he's not able to, maintain right now. And we'll try again next week and see if he can. And if it's something that, your dog's tried it 2 or 3 times and it just doesn't seem to work, then unfortunately your dog's not going to be able to come and to be there. So it's just because it's available doesn't mean that it has to take any dog and all dog. If it's a dog that's not dog friendly or people friendly, obviously that dog is not going to be brought into the facility. These are for dogs. I mean, there are 2 other local boarding facilities and doggy daycares that are very close to town that have waiting lists of people to get in. We have toured the facilities here and like in the Sioux Falls area, and they are, hundreds of dogs in the facilities in Sioux Falls. So
I just wanted to make sure in your business plan there,
yes, the dog has to
boarding
behave.
rules have
yes.
to.
Yep, the dog
be
has to
controlled.
behave. It has to be safe for the staff members as well as the other animals that are in our care.
That's what I was after.
Yep.
What's your plan to address your neighbors' concerns on the noise?
Just that, just to maintain that it is no different than a dog barking here and there like you would experience living in town in a neighborhood that while each neighbor had a dog, that's 15 dogs on a neighborhood block, to be responsible and to be respectful of the noise concerns. Again, these animals would not be left just unsupervised. These animals would not just be left outside in a fenced-in area all day long. These are play runs and play areas, and then looking to have a play area built inside of this shop to accommodate physical activity and exercise when the weather is South Dakota weather, rain and snow. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
What is your plan with your personal dogs? Are they going to be part of this also, or will they be outside the facility?
Well, they're either in my home, they're all indoor dogs, but if I'm down there working, then yes, they would be down within the facility and in the played-in area, of course, as long as, they're,
Is that included in your 40? So it'd be 38 plus your 2, or whatever you possess at that time?
yeah, that can be part of the 40. I only put 40 down because when I discussed with Richard, the goal right now would be to have 15 to 20 dogs. That's where we were starting, 10 to 20 dogs even. But he said, that if business was good and that I needed to increase, then I'd have to come back to this meeting again to ask for that to be increased. So I just said, well, let's just put it at 40. That gives me room to grow. On average, the other facilities that are here local in town, they're holding about 10 to 15 dogs a day during the work hours for doggy daycare. And as far as boarding goes, I don't know exactly how many they can hold, but I would imagine, I know she can hold 20 some dogs in her outdoor kenneling system overnight. So, we just put 40 down just as a guesstimate, so I didn't have to keep coming back saying, okay, I've already got 10, now I want 15, okay, now I want 25. So we just put 40 down.
When you look at the size of your facility, your room to expand, so to speak, I
Yep.
guess
Yep.
25 seems the number would be more reasonable to me to limit.
Well, and keep in mind too that, you have dogs that are different sizes. So, dogs that you might have a section that's your larger dogs, like a Labrador, say, and then you've got your smaller dogs, which are like, a miniature model, your 20-pound dog. Again, play times are going to be varied. Not all dogs are going to be outside at all times. And even within those play areas that we're looking at, like dividing them up too, like maybe you even have a smaller run within that bigger run where you've got, the ability to have a dog out to get some exercise. So it's not like saying 25 dogs in, 25 dogs out at the same exact time. Maybe you only have 6 of them out at a time so that you can play fetch and all that stuff with them. Because we plan on staffing it and being there, which is different as well as some of the facilities. They're only there at drop-off, pickup, or we'll say exercise time. So if exercise time is 2.5 hours in the afternoon, they've got staff there during those 2.5 hours, and then the dogs go back in the kennels for a few hours to nap and to rest, and then staff comes back at 4:30 to prepare dogs for pickup between 4:30 and 5:30.
Is there any other comments or questions from members of the board?
So most of the time of the day or night, dogs be inside.
Yeah, they have an indoor facility as well. Yep.
You say at one time maybe 6 or so outside, or
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an exact limit, but I mean, just for control and maintaining the organized chaos, yes, I may be physically responsible for 40 dogs, but I've got so many of the littles are over there in that kennel playing, and some are in taking their break time, and then another portion of them are outside playing. We're looking at having an internal, like a grooming facility, so maybe you've got 4 or 5 of them that are in because their owners have opted to have them get a bath and a grooming and their nails trimmed. So there might be 40 dogs within my care and my responsibility, but that does not mean 40 dogs outside in an enclosure.
and then at night, if you do board them, they'll all be locked up inside.
They're all individually in their kennels. Yep. Yep.
Would that be inside or outside?
That would be inside.
What direction from your building are your outside runs planned to be?
East and west.
East and west?
To the west right now, there's a gravel pad. And to the east, there's a grassland. Yep. And then we looked at being like a 4-foot or a 6-foot beyond the north part of the shop, just behind the shop for like a walkway like a fenced-in walkway for us if we needed to get to the other side of the building as well.
What is the size of that shed?
42 by 60.
Would you be opposed to moving your runs to the south side? Just to add more space between you and your neighbors? I understand it's parking lot now, but the farther distance you have, the more it's gonna help.
Well, I mean, I guess for us, the layout, the way that it works best for us is to utilize that space that is off to the west. That's the one that we're looking at initially in that concrete slab, to go west of the shop, so that we've got, plenty of turnaround access and parking. The parking pad, the concrete parking pad that would be south of the shop would come out, I think we measured 36 or 42 feet, because we're going to put, we wanted to do like I'm gonna call it a front porch. So with the windows and the door entry, then it would be like a overhang porch or awning that would come off of the building. And then it would be like a decorative patio to the south. And then that's where clients would park.
I really think if you do it, you need to make your runs to the south. I understand what you're saying, but in the opening statement, it says financial disadvantage to the property owner, which is basically the reason you don't want to do that. I don't know if any other members of the board think I'm crazy here or what, but the farther away from the property line we are, the better the scenario is going to be. And the only way using that building to go away from the property line is to go off the south side of the building.
My opinion then is that you're gonna actually you've got more traffic then going right by the dogs. Because you have to remember that if you put, where the cursor is right now, if you put the kennel runs out there, now any traffic up to my personal home or over to my parents' home is now within feet away from, which I would say would be more disruptive and disturbing to them. And as far as taking in their concerns for noise, I mean, with all due respect, I don't think the noise would be any different from the west side of the building to the east side of the building to the south side of the building. When they're going to be, like I said, inside a majority of the time, going outside for exercise and bathroom periods.
Okay, well, if you're saying that with where the cursor is, the distance from there to where your east runs are going to be, when they go out to work on their property line, it is going to agitate the dogs and cause noise because it's the same distance.
Well, I don't understand.
well,
I'm not coming south any further than the front of the building.
Yeah, well, what I suggested was moving your runs to the south side.
Out in the parking lot.
Yep, out into the parking lot, and you pointed out where his cursor was, kind of that dark spot down there in
Yep.
in that yard.
Yep.
And you say driving by there. Well, if driving by there, anytime property line up there where the barn is on the top, if you got to run to the east, your distance isn't any different, and you're going to agitate. They're going to agitate the dogs potentially when they go out to their barn.
But they're not driving a car right along the property line like we would be if we had to put it on the south side of the property. And we want to be able to main for snow removal purposes. We want to be able to have that open. Underneath out there in the south part is the clean out for my sewer out in the middle of that parking lot. So I have to have access to that as well.
How far is your privacy fence gonna go that you were talking about?
My privacy fence will go the whole distance along the north,
The whole distance?
the whole distance.
From the trees to the trees, from your east property line to the road?
The fence is not even gonna be back there, right at the back of the shop. So,
Yep.
yep, from right there. So let's say I went out 60 feet to the west, I would have 60 feet of solid privacy fence.
Oh, the whole distance
The
of your
whole
kennel.
distance, yep.
Okay.
How would you feel about that row of trees that is north of your house, extending them all the way to the west? So you have trees in between. for more
I
of
have
a
no
break.
problem putting trees in. They wouldn't be exactly lined up, I don't think. You mean right along the fence line, just bringing those over?
Where the trees are there, you see on the right,
Yep.
extend them all the way to the west.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, because he's got trees right there on the north that he doesn't, that's just like a shelter belt area for him as well.
I know it takes time for them to grow, but if you have fairly thick, dense
Yeah,
trees.
as long as that doesn't
helps.
interfere with like any of the drainage, because I know that, with the way that the water drains off of the property, but yeah, I mean my mom actually planted those north rows of evergreen trees when we purchased the property, so those were put in by her. They were not there beforehand.
I think to address Mr. Ford's comment on making the kennels come to the south, can I ask the residents to the north a question? Is that allowable?
Yeah.
It looks like, is that a fenced in area? Is that some pens that you guys use for your sheep?
Ma'am, you'll need to come to the microphone, please.
They're currently used for horses. We did use them for sheep,
They're
but
used for livestock.
Yep, but the neighbor dog noise upset the sheep a few years ago. So we switched our property around, and that's now horses.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't have a problem with the runs being where they're going to be. I don't think that's a big issue. Whenever you have a business like this and you have traffic and cars, you need that proximity to the building. I wouldn't put my kennels there either. I'd put them where you suggested, left, east and west. And your walkway on the north side and the shadow there, how wide was that going to be? 8 feet, you said?
No, like I would say 4 or 6 foot, and it's
not a play area or a holding area.
No, it
it's
would be
just
like a
strictly pass-through?
staffing transfer area.
Could you do that inside the building, or does it take up too much room?
It could be. We haven't finalized the layout yet. We were just waiting before we finalize that for tonight's approval.
Walk through.
Yeah, a walkthrough. So if someone was going over,
You could do that with 2 doors on the back side of the building.
you could. Yeah, and you would have access from the building as well. So there would be exit doors. But, like somehow we would want, whether it's an exit coming directly out of the building to the north, we would want staff for whatever reason to be able to get, there's already going to be doors to the south, so all the other access points as well.
Can I just verify a couple things? So you've got the discussion about the fence running along the entire north side from the east to the west property line
Off of the shop, yeah.
off of the shop, and so that protects the entire north side. Plus, we had some good dialogue. I think that's appropriate, is to have some trees that extend along the north side going to the west. That would be like a conifer tree or some type of tree like that. Conifers tend to get bushy and they absorb noise. So I would think that would be something. I don't know, do we have to amend the motion, or do we have to just say that's a recommendation, or how does that work, Chad?
That'll be added to the findings of the facts.
Okay, all right, thank you.
What kind of a tree is that? I mean, is that like an evergreen tree type?
Conifer,
or-
yeah, it's an evergreen tree.
Okay.
It could be Scotch pine, could be blue spruce, Meyer spruce, anything that's a long needled tree that bushes.
Okay.
Richard, while you have the ruler up, could you measure from that tree line to the west side? So we've got a measurement for findings and facts.
This would be to the edge of it's all one they own, but it's in 2 parcels. It'd be
It was changed this
445 feet to this parcel line right here.
It appears from the aerial that's like 2 rows of trees offset. Is that what it is that they planted? Or
They're different rows, like one's there's
Oh, there's
where the
three.
red is, that's one row.
Okay.
And then up there, that's a staggered.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause you want to stagger them.
But I wouldn't want to go to the gravel road. I would only be looking to go like directly behind the facility, correct?
Right, that's
The
1,006
450
feet to the
feet
road.
yeah.
Okay.
If you went from the existing trees now to your trees out of there, it'd be 275.
Okay.
So do we want to push for there or to go a little bit further and go to where the yellow line is potentially?
They mow that for hay and alfalfa past the cottonwoods that are there on the west. And that's a drainage ditch running north and south on the west side of those cottonwood trees. That's wetland. For us, it's considered wetland. It's wet there.
Well,
Luke, are you online? Do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, thank you. Luke Mahler, First District Associate, following along here. I just caught up to a couple of things here. The questions on the runs, a couple of thoughts I had were either the west side, I think I can understand that. The east side, maybe you'd be best not to go over there with the other animals. That's just kind of my comment. However, if that is something that the board's inclined to allow, I think what you're going on this line of extending that tree line is a good idea. You do have that option of including conifer trees as much as anything just visually to be able to break that line up and distract animals a little bit that are outside. Obviously, smell is going to be a big issue to them, but the bottom line is maybe go with at least a row of conifers as you were describing, and then some of those and go all the way west to the cottonwoods would be my recommendation. I don't know that there's much reason to go west of there. Those are all the comments I guess I've got at this point based on what you've got. Feel free to ask me anything else. Thanks.
thanks, Luke. Are there any additional comments or questions from members of the board?
I just was going to verify it's 3 rows of conifers and it can be offset. That would go to the cottonwood trees. That's what I understand we've been talking about.
Well, looking at the way that is right there, though, my concern with doing 3, I mean, maybe 2 on that furthest north line would work, but I don't want them so close. I mean, those would be rubbing up against the back of the shop.
Well, what's the distance from the property line to the shop?
About 60 feet the way it looks.
Okay, the NRCS, when I did some work on a building, they're roughly 15 feet separation, and the trees are roughly 20 feet apart from each other, offset on each row, because they grow so big and bushy.
Mm-hmm.
But it was 15 feet between rows and 20 foot between every tree, and it's offset so the trees don't angle up, so it's like an offset. And then when they fill up, 2 rows minimum, and when they fill up, then they create a sound.
I would think the 2 rows would be plenty. I don't think we need 3 in this particular area.
But I recommend
Because
two
you're
rows
setting it
minimum
off the
offset.
lot line to begin with, X number of feet, so you're not going to put it right on the lot line. You're going to move it in a little bit. Because if you look at the row of conifers that are there, they're already off the lot line. So if you start there and follow that natural line, you're not going to have room for more than 2 rows.
Yeah.
I think you'd want to follow that same line.
Yes. Yeah. I just don't want it to be running into the shop.
Maybe the 3 rows up to where your neighbor's trees are, and then wouldn't take as much from there on because you have the effect from their trees to help also.
I don't want to get into landscape design.
Yeah.
I would do the 2 without argument.
Normally, we recommend to work with the conservation district on any tree belts or claims.
But we do put requirements, types of trees in also.
I would hire it done, so whatever, I mean, I would imagine that they would know the appropriate way to install them.
Conservation District would be the place I'd go.
The other thing is if we put the tree lines in, and I'd say no dogs ever north of the building. Personal, whatever it be. I think just keeping them back from the fence lines the safest thing to do.
Well, I currently have an underground fence that runs the perimeter of my house, not down to the shop. It stops where that, not even quite to where that line is, probably where the letter E is on the bottom of that picture, ESRI. So, you know, my personal dogs are typically up and around the house with the electric shock collars on. And yeah, if they came down to that facility, they would be within the facility with me. But there wouldn't be, you know, there wouldn't be daycare type dogs that would be out there like unsupervised or off of a leash or anything like that.
Is there any other additional comments or questions for members of the board?
The one thing that I did want to say that I noticed you're closed Saturday and Sunday, which means you cannot board, or you will not and cannot board dogs over the weekend.
No, that was a starting point. Boarding dogs would be, that would partake over the weekend. We wouldn't do daycare dogs over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. So if people are traveling and they drop their dog off with us on Thursday and pick it up on Monday.
Okay.
That's what it would be.
Exactly. I just said close Saturday, Sunday.
Is there anything else from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none. Findings of the facts.
Not read this in an entire. Brookings County zoning conditional use permit 2021 CU 007. Application for conditional use permit having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as a board of adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Marty Surstead Sullivan regarding the following real property: the southwest 1/4, the northwest 1/4, lying south of Outlot A of said southwest 1/4 of northwest 1/4, extended east, except the east 245 of the north 72 feet of the south 344 feet of the southwest 1/4, northwest 1/4, all in section 12, township 109 north, range 50 west, including a 66-foot wide access easement across the west 550 feet of the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4, the center line of the said easement being 210 feet south of Outlot A in the southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of said section 12, township 109 north, range 50 west, Madera Township, located at 3631 Madera Avenue South, Brookings, South Dakota. After due notice, a public hearing having been held on the application on the 6th day of April 2021. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment findings that it is empowered to grant such a conditional use permit under the following sections of the Brookings County zoning ordinance and the Brookings County Joint Jurisdictional Area Ordinance. Article 11, Section 11.01A, Agricultural District, Conditional Use Number 20 of the Brookings County Zoning Ordinance, and Article 4, Section 4.05A, Agricultural District, Section 408, Special Exception Number 18, Home Occupations of the Brookings Joint Jurisdiction Area. And further finding that the granting of the conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest. Number A. Board of Adjustment further finds and certifies that the following specific rules governing the conditional use as requested to have been complied with. There's none stated. A. Board of Adjustment finds that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the property where applicable. Entrance and exit to the property. Entrance and exit will use existing driveway off Madera Avenue south. B. Off-street parking and loading areas. No on-street parking allowed. Use on-site parking. C, utility refuge and service areas. Dumpster service required and must dispose of animal waste in a safe manner. Either in the dumpster or land spreading. D, screening and bufferings. I had none stated.
2 rows of conifers.
Let's see what I got that. Boarding kennel shed. All right, 2 rows of conifers along the north property line extending from the existing trees west to the trees west of the dog kennel building. Work with the Brookings County Conservation District for design, kind, and planting of trees.
Is that privacy fence need to go in there, or is that just?
Additional privacy fence. They're also until the
Does that
trees.
go there,
That
or
would,
does
this
that
is where
go-
the privacy fence would go.
Yeah, I think a privacy fence just,
Do you want to specify height, 8 foot, 10 foot?
8 foot. So it would be 8 feet in total. I guess
The
if you,
length of any outdoor kennel.
the only thing would be is if you'd go 6 foot, could you add I don't want to call it a prison fence, but you know how you get to the top and then they're angled in? So if something, we're getting nitpicky. But you follow what I'm saying, you know? You say your dog can jump over an 8 foot fence, but if it's up, it
If
can.
it's a smooth plastic fence, they're not gonna get over top of an 8-foot fence. Chain link fence, I've seen dogs climb
Oh,
them
I've-
just like a cat.
I had one that could.
Yeah, you want this along the north property line for how
Yes.
long?
For any length of outdoor kenneling.
You want to extend it down to the trees then, or just from the kennel area? Along the kennel fence?
That should do it for there, I believe.
E, signs. 32 square foot sign is allowed. Required yards and other open spaces, none stated. General compatibility, comprehensive plan met for the agricultural district. Roads providing access to the property are adequate to meet the transportations. You want a road agreement with the township at all, or for? It's coming off a county street, which is 32nd Street, and Madeira Avenue South and 32nd South is a Madeira Township road, gravel road.
I don't think there'll be any heavy traffic.
Just be cars or pickup.
There'd
There
be
won't
car
heavy
pickup.
traffic.
It's not like somebody's
Okay,
gonna be rolling in with a cattle pot.
Notifications, law enforcement and fire department, none stated. Any other specific safety inspections? Any required. Health and safety inspections. Say as required or as needed.
Yep.
Number 4, determines and condition use upon the following special conditions or safeguards. What's the limit you wanted to?
Mike, that was your suggestion, wasn't it?
Let's put to include Brookings County Board of Adjustment, at least 2/3 vote of its full membership. Whoop, that has to be. I have that fixed. Hereby grants the petitioner a conditional use permit for the above described real property. Conditional use number 20, extended home business, and special exception number 18, extended home occupation, to operate a boarding kennel for up to 40, maximum of 40 dogs. This conditional use is specifically conditioned upon an issued and continued compliance with all applicable requirements in conditions 3 and 4 and above, upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning director is authorized to issue any required building permits for construction consistent with the requirements of this conditional use. This conditional use is not used within 3 years of the 6th day of April, 2021.
Everybody good with that? Richard, would you call roll?
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Jensen.
Yes.
Erickson. Bartley.
Aye.
Gadsky.
Aye.
Dietrich.
Aye.
Kleinjohn.
Aye.
Ford.
No.
Motion passes. 7 ayes, 2 noes.
Moving on to agenda item 2021, variance 006. Joel Edmond has made an application 2021 variance 006 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a variance Article 4 District Requirements, Chapter 4.0P03 LP Lake Park District, Section 4.03.03 Density Area and Yard Regulation. Minimum lakefront. The property is described as lots 39A and 40B of DeBoer's Lake Titankaha West Subdivision and Government Lots 4 and 5 in Section 7, Township 111 North, Range 51W, Oakwood Township, located at 57 and 61 Oakwood Shoreline Drive, Bruce, South Dakota 57220. Is there a motion? Motion by Jensen,
Second. Brian, yeah.
second by Gatsky. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2021 variance.
Yes.
Okay, yep, Joel. 2021 VAR 006, Joel Edmond has applied for variance to build a 16-foot by 66-foot attached garage addition 53 feet from the high water mark, a variance of 22 feet. The lakefront setbacks are 75 feet from the high water mark. The proposed garage addition will be built on the west side of the attached garage. The north 16 feet of the proposed garage additions would have a storage area below. The addition will be in line with the house and the neighboring properties on either side of the property, and the proposed garage addition will meet the 8-foot side setback and 25 front yard setback. The cabin is built on a ridge and sits 12 feet above the high water mark. A portion of the property is in the floodplain, and the applicant will have to complete a floodplain development permit and follow the needed FEMA standards for the proposed garage addition. The current site and the proposed plan were included in this report. Things to consider are the shape and the size of the lot. DeBoer's Lake Titankaha West Subdivision was originally platted in 1984 and replatted in 2003 when the original road was vacated and relocated. Lots 39A and 40B were replatted in September of 2006. The house was built prior to the current zoning ordinance in place and the Brookings County Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Development. On page 58, it says it's likely that established development of Lake Campbell, Lake Hendricks, Lake Titankaha, which is Lake Oakwood, otherwise known as Lake Oakwood, Lake Ponset will continue to experience development in varying degrees, while non-lakefront growth exists for all possible areas. Letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, the Oakwood Township Chairman and Clerk, and public notices were published in the Brookings Register on March 23rd and 30th, 2021, and the Vulgate Tribune on March 25th and April 1st. There's the applicant's variance application. This is his existing garage. This is his proposed 16-foot by 66-foot addition. This part of the garage would be the portion that would have the 2 storage, would have the basement underneath there. This would be slab on grade as the house is. This is what it would look like looking at it from the west. This is from the north going out here. This is looking at it from the lake side. This would have the underground storage, or not underground, below storage, excuse me. This is the existing house and living area. This is looking at it from the south. The red area here is the floodplain. As noted, he is 12 foot above there, and he does have a floodplain development permit on file for other construction that he has done on his property. And this property is the other property that he recently purchased. The buildings that were on there have been removed. So there are no structures on that property, so this is where the proposed garage would be over in this area. Just going over some pictures quick. This is the, looking at it from the southwest, looking towards the northeast, it's kind of over there. This is where the proposed garage would go. This is looking at the wheel is at the north side of the, or actually west side of the proposed garage along this here. This is 2 feet back from the front of the garage, so this would be the west side of the garage addition. This would be the south side of the garage addition, be from the existing garage out to the wheel would be the part that would stick over and into the house, next to the housing, existing housing area, and have the garage below it. This is looking east along the shoreline. There, this is looking to the west along the shoreline. This is looking uphill from the bottom of the rocks riprap down to up to the west edge of the proposed garage addition. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come forward, sit down, and clearly state your name?
Joel Edmond.
Do you have anything to add to Richard's report?
No, I just gotta put third stall in the garage.
Pretty simple. Alrighty. Well, if that's it, I'll open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is against this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board?
Will this affect anybody's view but your own?
Yeah, but my own, yeah. Nobody to the west anymore, and the ones to the east, and the others farther down, actually closer to the water than I am. So that.
Any other comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you read the findings of the facts?
Yep, this one is a variance. I'll read this one in its entirety, and the other ones this evening we'll just hit the highlighted areas. Brookings County zoning variance 2021 VAR 006, an application for a variance having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as a Brookings County Board of Adjustment. Copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Joel Edmond regarding the following real property. Lots 39A and 40B of DeBoer's Lake Tonkaha West Subdivision in Government Lots 4 and 5 in Section 7, Township 111 North, Range 51 West, Oakwood Township, located at 57 and 61 Oakwood Shoreline Drive, Bruce, South Dakota. After due notice, a public hearing have been held on the application on the 6th day of April, 2021. Number one, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment hereby finding that the strict application of the Brookings County zoning ordinance would produce undue hardship, that such hardship is not shared generally by other properties in the same district and the same vicinity, and that such authorization of variance will not be substantial detriment to the adjacent property, and the character of the district will not be changed by granting of the variance, and that granting of the variance is based upon reasons of demonstrable and exceptional hardship as distinguished from variations for the purpose of convenience, profit, and caprice. Number two, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the condition or situation of the property concerned or the intended use of the property is not so general or reoccurring in nature as to make reasonable, practicable the formation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to the zoning ordinance. Number three, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the written application of the petitioner demonstrates that special conditions and circumstances exist, which are peculiar to the land, structure, or buildings in the same district, that literal interpretations of the provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the ordinance, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, and that granting of the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Number four, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the reasons set forth in the application justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the Brookings County zoning ordinance, and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Number five, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this variance upon the following special conditions or safeguards. A, shape and size of lot. B, DeVore's Lake Titankaha subdivision was platted on October 30th, 1984, and replatted on October 10th, 2002. This I added in there for the part of the garage that would be open between the existing house and the existing garage. Not sure what your plans are, if you're going to insulate that or if it was going to be open or whatnot, but just added firewall to be constructed on the interior walls of the garage addition adjacent to the residence to meet fire code. And that would be in this part that was back here with the garage that was underneath there. I don't know if you're going to have a separate wall in there or not, Joel, or if you're going to divide.
Yeah, well, that's not going to be connected to that.
Right, it's not, it's going to be a space between here, but it's still
Right,
with the less than 10 feet. So
Oh,
from
okay.
another structure
Yeah,
is why we.
it's all going to be finished.
So. Okay. Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner a variance for the above described real property as follows. Build a 16-foot wide by 66-foot long attached garage addition onto his existing attached garage, 53 feet from the high water mark on Lake Titankaha, otherwise known as Lake Oakwood. This variance is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the conditions and safeguards in 5 above, upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning director would be authorized to issue any required building permits for construction consistent with the terms of this variance. If this variance is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid, dated the 6th day of April.
If everybody's good, Richard, would you call a vote?
Troyan.
Aye.
Jensen.
Yes.
Erickson. Bartley.
Aye.
Gatsky.
Aye.
Dietrich.
Aye.
Kleinjohn.
Aye.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Joel. Agenda item 2021, variance 007, Kelvin and Julie Christensen by Fred Lebanon have made an application 2021, variance 007 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for variance Article 4 District Requirements, Chapter 4.03 LP Lake Park District, Section 4.03.03 Density Area, Yard Regulation, Minimum Lakefront. The property is described as Lot 1 of Jornby's 3rd Edition in the southwest 1/4 of Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50W, Madera Township, and Lot 11, Jornby's 1st Edition, and Government Lots 1 of Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50W, Madera Township, located at 2672 Lake Shore Drive, Volga, South Dakota 57071. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Dietrich. Second by Jensen. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, variance 2021 VAR 007. Cal and Julie Christensen by Fred Laban have applied for variance to build a residential addition onto their existing garage. It would be 15 feet from the high water mark from the September 2019 rain event. A variance of 60 feet. The lakefront setbacks are 75 feet from the high water mark. The distance from the proposed addition to the top of the riprap of the shoreline is 73 feet. The elevation of the proposed structure addition will be 4 foot higher than the existing shoreline, and the proposed addition will be set farther back than either of the houses on either of the adjoining properties and will not obstruct the view up or down the shoreline. The existing garage was built in 2006. Things to consider are the shape and the size of the lot, and when the lot was platted. Lot 1 of Joinbury's 1st Edition was platted on April 4th, 1984, and Lot 11 in Joinbury's 3rd Edition was platted on May 10th, 1995. And same as the comprehensive plan expects Lake Campbell to experience continued growth in the area to varying degrees, as according to our comprehensive plan found on page 58. Letters were sent to the adjoining landowners and the Madera Township Chairman and Clerk, and public notices were published in the Brookings Register on March 23rd and 30th, 2021, and the Voluge Tribune on March 25th and April 1st. This is the application for the variance. This is our site plan. This is the existing garage that was built in 2006, I believe it was. Maybe not, I don't recall. Anyway, this is the existing garage that was there. They're going to add on to the living quarters to this, to the west and south side right here. This is where the high water mark came in September of 2019 when we had all the rain. To my knowledge, it's not been up to this high since they have owned that property, and it's 72 and it's 15 feet from that line to the edge of the house, which I'll show you in pictures later on. And from the edge of the house to the top of the riprap, it's 72 feet. And there is considerable elevation difference between the two areas. This is just the beacon map showing they are on two lots right here. This trailer house that is there that they have been using to live in when they're at the lake has been sold. It will be removed this spring, so that will be gone. This is where the proposed addition will be right here. Some of these trees are have been removed, but from this right in this area right here, this top of the riprap back to the proposed foundation or the edge of the addition structure is 72 feet, and from that. This shows the other property, the other parcel being highlighted. And the red area is the floodplain, so it is not in the floodplain area. This is just looking from the road south from Lakeshore Drive, looking towards the existing garage. Driveway off to the southwest, where the proposed residential addition would be. This is the manufactured home that will be removed. Existing septic system is in this area right here. The wheel is that would be at the west corner of the proposed addition right there. This is looking from the neighbor's house to the east, looking towards the west. This would be the southeast corner of the addition. This would be from the west, looking towards the east of the deck on the trailer house right there. This would be the southwest corner of the proposed addition. Looking there, you can see the edge of the house. It will not obstruct the view. It does not stick out past the adjoining neighbor's property, the Eckrons there. This is just looking back towards the west again. The addition will be back behind the trailer house to the west. This is looking from the lake shore back towards the house. The wheel is at the edge of the property. This is the stake that they had in there where the high water mark was. They had this all marked out for me. This is where the stakes back in 2019 in September, when everyone else got flooded in September and Lake Campbell flooded, this is how high the water got, and it's, to their knowledge, it has never been that high. You can see that quite the elevation difference between here and going back towards the garage. This is looking, yeah, see how high the water had to get up to get on the property. From the edge of the riprap, this is where I measured from, the 73 feet. Be from the edge of this riprap back towards the house is where that was. This is looking towards the east from their dock area, and this is looking towards the west. And that's all I have. Received no comment from any of the additional landowners or any of the involved parties.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? If you'd step forward and clearly state your name.
Fred LeBon.
Do you have any additions or corrections to anything that Richard said?
Well, with the garage being there and the way the power's brought in, the water's brought in, the sewer, this is the most feasible way to do a fairly reasonable house price. And then the lay of the land, you know, with that being put in the foundation, that will change that high water mark because that will get shoved back because there's a drastic drop off from the garage.
Okay. Well, if that's it there, I'll now open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, if there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is against this? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you read the findings of the facts?
Yes, Brookings County zoning variance 2021 VAR 007. Application for a variance having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, I think as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Calvin and Julie Christensen by Fred Laban regarding the following real property. Lot 1 of Jornby's 3rd edition in the southwest 1/4 of Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50 West, Madera Township. And Lot 11 in Jornby's 1st edition in Government Lot 1 of Section 28, Township 109 North, Range 50 West, Madera Township, located at 2672 Lakeshore Drive, Volga, South Dakota. After due notice, a public hearing have been held on the application on the 6th day of April, 2021. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this variance upon the following special conditions or safeguards. Shape and size of lot. Lot 1 in Jornby's 1st edition was platted on April 4th, 1984. Lot 11 in Jornby's 3rd edition was platted on May 10th, 1995. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner a variance for the above described property as follows. Build a 41-foot wide by 39 feet long attached living quarters addition onto their existing detached garage. The living quarters addition would be 15 feet from the highest known watermark that occurred on September 2019 and 73 feet from the top of the Rip Rock shoreline. Continued compliance with all conditions and safeguards in 5 above, and upon continued compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning director would be authorized to issue any building permits required for constructions consistent with the terms of this variance. This variance is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Dated the 6th day of April, 2021.
I'd like to note that I concur with the findings of fact.
Thank you. Richard, would you call for a vote?
Jensen,
Yes.
Erickson, Bartley,
Aye.
Gatsky,
Aye.
Dietrich,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Vanderwall, Troyan,
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Agenda item 2021 variance 008.
Thanks, Fred. You can come in any time for your building permit.
Lawrence Risty and Matthew Pavic have made an application 2021 variance 008 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a variance Article 4 District Requirements, Chapter 4.03 LP, Lake Park District, Section 4.03.03 Density Area and Yard Regulation, Minimum Lakefront. The property is described as lots 11, 12, 11A, 12A, Kamara Beach Edition, in the northwest 1/4, Section 15, Township 112 North, Range 47W, Lake Hendricks Township. Located at 107 North Lake Hendricks Drive, Hendricks, Minnesota 56136. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vanderwall. Second by Troyan. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2021 variance 008, Lawrence Risty by Matthew Pavic. Have applied for variance to build a 10-foot wide by 37-foot long residential addition on their existing, well, it's not garage, our house. 72 feet from the high water mark, a variance of 3 feet. The lakefront setbacks are 75 feet from the high water mark. The proposed addition will meet the side setback of 8 feet from the side property line. The addition will sit farther back from the adjoining neighbor's residence and will not obstruct the shoreline view. The property is in the floodplain, and the previous owner submitted documents to FEMA to have the house removed from the floodplain as it met the requirements to be removed. And things to consider are the shape and the size of the lot and when the lot was platted. Camara Beach was platted in November 5th, 1970, and the house was built in 1950 both prior to the current zoning ordinance. And as stated in the Brookings County Comprehensive Plan on page 58, Lake Hendricks will experience continued growth in varying degrees, as with the other lakes in Brookings County. Letters were sent to the adjoining landowners and Lake Hendricks Township Chairman and Clerk, and public notices were published in the Brookings Register on March 23rd, and 30th, 2021, and the White Tri-City Star on March 25th and April 1st. Here's their variance application. Is there a site plan showing the proposed addition? We got 70 feet 6 inches. I went out and measured the property and took pictures, and it's actually a little farther away from that. So they are 15 feet from the side property line, just basically adding on to the length of the house, adding on 10 feet for a few extra, three extra rooms. This is the beacon map showing the property that has been removed. The little red area has been pushed back to the side of the house, and they have submitted the paperwork, so we have that on file. Just the beacon map showing the house and the proposed addition right there. This is looking the south towards the house. This is where the proposed addition would be. This would be 10 foot out. This would be the west side of the addition going along the deck, and the existing little abutment or little addition right here would be removed from the house, and the 10-foot addition would go on there. This is looking east from the south side of the house at the 37-foot mark, the same distance of the house right there. These steps would come off. This is looking back from the shoreline towards the house. This is the 10-foot distance from the house to what the width of the addition would be. This is looking towards the east along the shoreline. It would not obstruct the view going there. This is looking west along there. Same thing there, would not obstruct the view of the adjoining landowners to the west. And this is just looking back towards the house, showing the elevation difference between the top of the rocks right in this area back to the house. This is looking along the east shoreline. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you come forward and sit down and clearly state your name?
Matthew Pavic, general contractor.
Lawrence Risty, owner.
Do you have anything to add to Richard's?
No.
Pretty simple.
No, I think it's late. You guys probably have had enough.
Well, that being said, then I'll open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience or on the phone that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board?
I sincerely thank you for hanging in there for this long meeting. We appreciate that. It gets a little long in tooth sometimes, so it's necessary. You just happen to draw the straw to be last, but that's the way it is. I do like this swing set you got out in the front yard. I imagine that's going to go if your kids are grown, but that's cool. Cool swing set. Just had to notice that.
Any other additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing none, Richard, would you read the findings of the facts?
Yes, Brookings County zoning variance 2021 VAR 008, an application for zoning commission acting as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment. Copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Lawrence Risty, by Matthew Pavic regarding the following real property: lots 11, 12, 11A, 12A of Camara Beach Edition, the northwest 1/4 of Section 15, Township 112 North, Range 47 West, Lake Hendricks Township, located at 107 North Lake Hendricks Drive, Hendricks, Minnesota. After due notice, a public hearing have been held on the application on the 6th day of April, 2021. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this variance upon the following special conditions or safeguards. A, shape and size of lot. Camara Beach was platted on November 5th, 1970, and the house was built in 1950, prior to the current zoning ordinance in place. Brookings County zoning ordinance, or Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner variance for the above described real property as follows. Build a 10-foot wide by 37-foot long residential addition onto their existing house 72 feet from the high water mark. Continued compliance with all the conditions and safeguards in 5 above, and upon continued compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning director is authorized to issue any required building permits for construction consistent with the terms of this variance. This variance is not used in the 3 years of the date, the 6th day of April, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to state that I concur with the findings of facts.
Thank you, Mr. Diedrich.
It said 1070, not 1970.
That's true.
In the first paragraph and that last.
Then why did you concur?
Because I was really excited to have a house or a structure built in Brookings County from 1070, just on file.
You bring a valid point.
Anything else?
Seeing nothing else, Richard, would you call a vote?
Yes, Erickson. Bartley.
Aye.
Gatsky.
Aye.
Dietrich.
Aye.
Feinjohn.
Aye.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Troyan.
Aye.
Jensen.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Motion passes.
You might want to change it in the, there's like a first paragraph up there too at the top of the document that had 1070.
So demanding. Well, moving on to agenda item 23, department reports.
Maybe it was the application.
It was on my staff report, I believe, is where it was.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and you can come in and get your building permit, or we can send it back and forth by the mail. We've got all the required, whichever you would prefer, so, thank you. Okay, we'll send that out. We'll get that.
Mr. Chairman, first thing up, there's spots, if you want the COVID-19 vaccine and you want to come through our points of dispensing, you've got an opportunity on April 15th or April 22nd. After that, we're going to probably be closing down our points of dispensing. We'll be having several of them into May, but those will all be second shots. So if you're interested in getting a shot, you got April 15th or April 22nd. You go to www.brookingshealth.org, sign up. If you're near a Beta bus route, you can call Beta and get a free ride to go get your shot. The dry conditions, we've had several days of red flag conditions. We've had 2 reportable, any grassland fire I have to report to Pier now in Brookings County because of the dry conditions. I don't know how much we can tell you, just don't burn.
Any word on the one last night?
Yes, some punks out doing donuts or something and caught 0.4 acres, and 2 days before that, there was a guy, he was doing it right. Had a skid steer out there, and he was controlling the fire, and then the skid steer died on him, and he lost the skid steer, and so I don't know when these conditions are so dry, I just don't understand why people want to risk. And there was another fire over by Elkton that wasn't reported. I heard today that the landowner actually went out and put it out himself, so. But before that, we had a fire from the train over by Elkton. The train sparked it, so. And there is a drought projected for South Dakota. We're getting in that minimal stage. Yes, we had some rain today, and we'll probably got some going home tonight. But the climatologists are still saying, watch out, it's gonna be won't be a good drainage year, because there won't be anything to drain. It's gonna be a rough year, it sounds like. Medical marijuana. I guess you've heard that the state of South Dakota passed a couple marijuana bills. Well, it looks like medical marijuana will probably be the first off the thing. Don't get too excited yet, though, because we're still working on the laws on it. And if it gets to the zoning board where it needs to be in the zoning ordinance, obviously this board will hear it. And we had a meeting earlier, well, last week, I believe it was. Richard and I attended. Commissioner Bartley was sitting on it, and so did our state's attorney. Our state's attorney will be guiding on what happens on both marijuana parts, medical and non-medical. Obviously, agricultural is a permitted thing. The question is, how are they going to make it regulated? Because marijuana is an agricultural crop, isn't it? So there's some unknowns there. Don't get too excited just yet. If you got a big bag of seeds, you might want to still hide them from the revenuers. Wait until it's all sorted out, and then bring your bag of seeds out. Okay. And do you have any feedback from the training that you had on March 31st? Anything we can give First District to do better next time, or?
Well, is Luke on for this or not?
He's probably still having.
I'm hoping he's there so he can hear any feedback that we may have.
Oh, I'm listening. I can't wait to hear.
We don't want to talk behind your back, so I mean,
Don't go anywhere. I'll have a question after this over something that I just don't remember.
Sounds good.
How we worded it. So.
And just for your information, Richard had the year 1070 on a conditional use permit. I've been to Asia, lived in Asia for 3.5 years, and lived in Europe for 3.5 years. And I've seen houses that was built in 1070 in both continents. I can't say I've seen one in Brookings County yet, but I'll keep looking.
You want to go to Hendricks? We can show you.
I said South Dakota, not Minnesota.
Well, Lake Hendricks then.
And that's my report. Richard probably has something to add that I forgot, or?
Yep, we just have a come up daycares in rural Brookings County. They would be considered a home occupation. Right now, under our home occupations, daycares are not listed specifically, but we have listed professional and services office, art and photo studio, dressmaking or millinery, teaching with musical instruction limited to 2 pupils at a time, keeping of not more than 2 roomers or boarders, tea room, barber shop, beauty shop, antique shop, or J, other uses in the opinion of the county zoning commission which would not be detrimental. Looking for your guidance, is that where a daycare would fall in right now underneath our other uses?
There have been some in the county, and there hasn't been any problems that I know of.
Best one I used was in the county. And now she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge shortage of daycare. Find a place for it.
There is some, one thing would be coming up would be to whether they would require them to have a conditional use, just so we know where they're at, and or would be if they would be required to be, it's called registered, not licensed, but to be registered by the state of South Dakota. Just only reason to be registered would be so they could qualify for reimbursement for the meals that they feed their children that they're babysitting. So that would be something to consider, if you want to add that to there, but other counties, Coddington does not require a conditional use for that. It's permitted use, and or in the city, it's in the city of Brookings, depending on what zoning district or what zoning area their house is, it is a permitted use. In some areas, it is a conditional use. And this would be up to no more than 12 kids, 12 children, including their own. So, right, that's following all of that's, and that is in the state standards of the administrative rules for childcare.
I agree with Mike. Permitted use, whatever we can do to make it as easy as possible for those that are qualified to do so.
I'm also waiting for a reply back from the state's attorney just to see what their, for in the future, if we need to, you know, what their stance is on it. But right now, I can get back to this lady and.
They're qualified. By them not being registered, they're not, who knows if they're qualified or not. They can just, you can just, Mr. Ford could have 12 kids come into his house and he could babysit them.
Nobody do that. That's
Yeah, so don't think these people are trained. Some of them may be, and some of them may not be. You just,
Well, again, the registration is required if you want to be reimbursed for meals.
From the feds,
Other than
yeah,
that,
from
there's not a state licensing.
food stamps and stuff like that. And,
I think the
milk.
state licensing comes in when you get past a certain
More
number
than
of
12.
kids.
When you get more than 12, then you have to have a state license.
All right, so I don't think we want to get into a licensing situation. Registration voluntary or something. I mean,
It is
we're
voluntary.
going to know it already because we're going to grant it as permitted use. So that's a form of registration already.
No, if it's permitted, then they don't come through. They just do it.
Wow. Okay. So permitted use, I don't have a problem with.
Okay, that's fine.
But if they want to get reimbursed, they're going to have to get registered with the state. Oh.
Yeah, but that would be up to the person. The person shouldn't be doing it if they're that close to a feedlot, see? And these are not, it's not like the city, it's, well, whoever lives in the country, you know, you probably don't have a neighbor for half a mile, most people. So, what they do, they do.
And
I
no
don't
matter
know if we could do what you're referring to.
No matter what type of fence you get put up, some kids are actually going to go across the fence to pet that calf, no matter what.
Just the cat.
just
I am not going to touch that one if it's 10 foot.
That's all that I have at this time. So, the two items on the agenda that we did not hear tonight was because of legal ramifications. 3 parcels of land, the landowner was not notified, so according to our ordinance, they need to be notified 14 days in advance of the public hearing, so we called the applicant and all the interested parties and the adjoining landowners and let them know that it was not being heard this evening and that it will be heard at our May 4th meeting, I believe it is. So, Luke, anything else you want to add?
Nope, I've got nothing to add. It sure was fun listening.
We're glad we're entertaining.
Hey, Chad, I have a question. So since we're going to the dogs, from the standpoint of trees, can we specify the height of trees?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can specify types that, like you put in the conifer,
Yeah,
right?
I should have, okay, I erred on that. I should have put a height in, because it takes so long to grow conifers.
Yeah, I know there's different types of trees, and I believe what you were going for there was the taller the tree,
Right,
the
right. The
better
bushier, thicker.
the more the noise barrier goes up.
I just made a mistake with say.
Oh, you did
Because
just
you can
fine.
move a 5 or 6 foot tree pretty easily.
Yep.
And also
Sorry
with the
about that. I
privacy
just-
fence there
I just
too,
wanted
that-
a clarification.
That
Shoulda
helps
asked.
also.
Yep. Yeah, the privacy fence will do more
Yeah.
than the trees will till the trees are established.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, at the training the other day, you wanted me to use a different verbiage, and Mike and Richard and I cannot remember what that was.
I believe it was with the findings.
Oh, it was right
Concurring.
before the calling of the roll, wasn't it? Wasn't it, are there any more comments regarding the findings of fact, or it wasn't that either, it was,
Thank you for struggling to remember this also.
yes, I'll have to go back. Oddly enough, at 10:03, I can't recall exactly what I was thinking a week ago
All right.
right now.
I just remember there was some different verbiage that you'd suggested, and I cannot remember what it was.
Yeah, that's why all of a sudden you started mentioning the findings toward the end. We'll talk. I'll look through my notes and see if I made a note of it.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Anything else for department reports?
I was going to point out the same thing you just said too, that when you put those trees, you guys had the choice there of mitigating things either by saying if there's a problem we'll handle it, or saying specifically how to do it. I vastly prefer, for the sake of a zoning officer, to have some clear, tangible things to put into there. So I applaud what you did there. And then, yeah, in the future, you've got the ability to say that they're 5 feet at the time of planting, 3 feet, or just yearlings. So that's it. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Luke. I take a motion to adjourn, right? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Gatsky,
Second.
second by everyone.
Don't let that one.
Meeting adjourned. What do we got to vote?
Unanimous.
Pick one. It'll work.
Oh,